I disagree. Focus on the process, which is, you probably should spend more time focusing on the process. But if you totally neglect the outcome, sometimes you forget what you want.
Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez
and me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
All right, let's dig in. We got Ben Askren. I'll do my best to give you an introduction in case any CrossFitters don't know you. Olympian, two-time Hodge Trophy winner for Missouri, Bellator champion, UFC fighter, multiple-time author. I loved your book, your biography, Funky. Hey, I do have feedback. We need you back on FRL. It's not the same. I
Once in a while
stopped listening to it when you left.
Oh man, that's I take no joy in that because I do like those guys and I think they do a good job.
They do a great job. Part of it was they switched the time.
Yes, they did a little later, which I probably would have liked a little more, but
your time when you were on it lined up perfectly. I had my basement gym's right next door. I'd throw it on and do my workout and listen to you guys, and then you left. But I mean, I've read your book. Well, I should say I listened to your book, Funky, and I listened to Extreme Balance, and I was hoping to chat a little bit about that and how it can relate to CrossFitters and
let's do it.
Life in general. I do have one. I want to ask you a question about post wrestling. I grew up wrestling. I still compete in jiu-jitsu, and I have a hypothesis about wrestlers in that they take two paths post wrestling. They either become obese or they become like extremely fit. Have you found that?
That's funny. With it, yes, it obviously draws a certain type of personality, a little bit extreme. And so, there's certain people. And I did this for the first year after retirement because I'd been making weight for so many years. I just said, I'm not getting on a scale. I'm not watching what I eat. I've been doing that for 20 years. And obviously, if you do that, you generally gain quite a bit of weight, especially when, your workload probably goes down. I mean, I still train some, but it definitely went down quite a bit. And then, after that, it was like, okay, well, now I have the rest of my life. And so either I'm going to choose to be in shape and eat right, or I'm not, So, I've chose to eat right and be in shape. And, but yes, I would say that's a pretty good synopsis.
I wrestled 91 pounds through my senior year of high school. I'm 5'3", and I was a little shorter, in high school. So luckily straight from that, I just kind of found we're weight training and never left. But my teammates from high school, they're all severely obese. I'd imagine it's a little different at your level.
Severely obese.
I mean, maybe my definition of severely obese is, not what most people.
You're gonna love this. You know what? I read that book, Good Energy by Casey and Kelly Means.
Yep.
Have you heard of that?
I've heard you talk about it. I've not read it.
Okay, well, it's great. You should read it. But now I just walk around the airport and think metabolic dysfunction. Yeah. Look at people. Oh, they got metabolic dysfunction. Yes, Americans as a population are very unhealthy, and we need to try to turn it around.
And we see that at the CrossFit level. You go to a box and people get frustrated when they're not maybe at the top of the leaderboard at their gym. And I'm like, hey, go to the supermarket. You're at the top of the leaderboard everywhere else. It depends who you're comparing yourself to. But, speaking of you and staying lean, there's been a massive difference in your physique in the last year. And I know you've attributed it to giving up desserts. My question is,
well, I got on testosterone too. I am open about that.
Have you found a difference there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was maybe, that was somewhat the same time as giving up dessert, but I do think that giving up dessert was a big one because, and then actually the more I read about, the means is a lot of this food is meant to be addictive and meant to make you eat more. And I definitely overeat on dessert. And when I just cut that out, that was such an easy way to get rid of a whole bunch of calories that I was consuming every day that was probably serving no purpose for me. So that, and then, generally, like I said, I got a little bit out of shape because I'd been making weight for 20 plus years in a row. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. And so I probably eat healthier now than ever before in my life.
Do you feel like it's just because you were peaking so often? I know, like, when you're in a fight camp, you're like so dialed in, it's easy to step back out of it. Talk about balance.
Yeah. Well, I would say part of it is just my intrigue and more information is coming to the surface. That's a big part of it. And the other part of it is I just don't train as much as I used to. And so that's it. Like, I'm 40 now. As a 40-year-old, I don't think I can train quite as hard as I could, when I was 22 or 23 or 24 or 25, which means if you're doing a lighter workload, you got to eat less calories. And so that's, kind of simply put, that's kind of one of the things I'm doing, try to eat a lot healthier. I wouldn't say I'm all the way carnivore, but, I've read a lot about the carnivore thing. I eat a ton of meat. I think it's great. Probably a lot less grains, pasta, carbohydrates, that type of thing.
That's essentially, how I eat. And I think it's how the human body was meant to eat. We've had Paul Saladino on the podcast. Great guy.
He's great.
I love it. Especially, I did full bore carnivore when he was maybe 4 or 5 years ago talking about it. And then, like, he's talking about adding meat and adding berries and some other stuff has made a big difference.
Yes. Yeah. He's not quite as militant as he once was, which, that goes into the balance thing. I think, maybe we obviously shouldn't eat primary grains or anything, but meat is great and has been demonized probably too much, but that doesn't mean vegetables and fruits aren't good also, good healthy source of energy.
Affiliate owners, if you want to grow revenue, what you need to understand is impact first. Offering the best classes and changing people's lives is how you get the revenue that you are searching for inside of the affiliate. And that starts with running fantastic classes here inside of the box. If that is something that you are looking for, we've got world-class coaches that are going to help you do that and help you run a better box. Everything from the coaching on the floor to the systems on the back end, we're going to cover it all. Book a call. We'll see you guys on the inside.
I saw you on the Clash of Combat podcast recently with Kate.
Oh, really? Nice.
That's what made me reach out. I was like,
okay,
you were on that podcast. I love that. I mean, he's a kid, right? Caden. Was he a part of Askren?
So he actually wrestled for our wrestling academy, Askren Wrestling Academy. He trained mainly with my brother, but now he's at the local Division II college, UW Parkside, who we have a great relationship with. And so we've worked together some in the past, and I figured with my book and the journal coming out, it's like, I should get in front of his audience as well.
I kind of pieced that together when you guys were talking. I didn't realize he was a part of the AWA. Yep. I've loved seeing him grow, man. It's pretty cool to see a young kid like that just go head down and put the work in and grow a YouTube channel. But I bring it up because you mentioned having a few more matches. I got 2 ideas for you if you're open to them.
Uh-oh. Let's do it.
I think either Chael Sonnen.
Okay.
Do you think I think you would beat Chael.
I don't think Chael would want to wrestle me, but let's go. Keep going. Who's the other one?
Or Colby Covington.
I would love to whoop up on Colby, but that's another one where it's very unlikely that he would say yes, given that he understands what the outcome would be.
Yeah, but you were talking about having a tough match where you'd win. I think you'd win.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But for him, he knows he's going to lose.
Yeah,
so he is not going to want to say yes.
Of course. And by the way, I think the best thing you do every week is Funky and the Champ.
Oh, I just filmed that last night. It's coming out. At some point they do a little bit of editing and then they're putting it out, so that's coming out some point today. That's such an easy one because I am trying to get away from podcasting, but that's just like me hopping on and talking to a friend, and unfortunately I do come off as, I don't want to say uneducated sometimes, but I don't really do any research for it. So we're talking about a fighter, and maybe I'm not, like Arman Sarukian we were talking about last night. I've watched a couple of his fights, but I haven't watched all of them, and I couldn't tell you who his resume is. And so sometimes I come off a little bit uneducated because I literally don't do any homework. I just show up and talk to my buddy.
It's great every time. I don't follow DC's channel, but that one pops up in my YouTube, and I always click on it. I love listening to YouTube talk. I imagine it's like he just shoots you a text, "Hey, are you free? Let's record."
Yes, that's yeah. Actually, I try to get him to give me more than a couple hours heads up, but yes, that's kind of, oh yes, I can do it, or oh no, I'm busy the rest of the day, maybe tomorrow, or stuff like that. But yes, he does not always give me the most heads up.
Well, I've not said it earlier, but you're someone I highly admire and look up to
Thank
for
you.
many reasons. You know, your wrestling career, but specifically your mindset. Like, I did your mindset course. I love your dig in, innovate,
Thank you.
pivot. Listening to your book,
Yeah, that one I thought. Listen, I actually sometimes I don't know if you've ever done this with anything you've done in life. Sometimes you think, oh, I freaking killed it, and it doesn't really take off. And sometimes you think, oh, I didn't think much of that. Like it was something like I kind of did, but I didn't put a ton of effort or time into, and then it takes off. Have you ever like had that happen to you?
hey, the
And so like that one, I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I actually thought it was great. And it was like it did okay, it did but not like it didn't take off, And then there's been other things where I don't put a ton of time and effort into them, and I didn't really expect much, and boom, they took off. So that's always funny when life works out that way.
well, I will say you're someone where if you put it out, I'm going to buy it. You know,
Thank you.
you've earned my respect, and like I said, I huge fan of stoicism. I read meditations every day, and
Yeah.
it was probably. I mean, I saw you wrestling throughout college, and then you followed your fight career, followed you to the UFC, and then as I got to hear you more and more, that's why I loved FRL with you on it, because little bits and pieces or your Monday mindset stuff, it really makes a difference, and I
Yeah.
think anyone would benefit from it, whether you're into wrestling, fighting, CrossFit, checking out Ben's stuff. Talking about the book again, Extreme Balance.
Hmm. I got it right here.
I listened to it, so it's on my phone technically. Hey, by the
Uh-huh.
way, my
All good.
feedback would be you should have been the narrator.
You know what? They didn't even ask me, which I narrated my own the biography that I wrote. That was so hard. That it was so hard. Like I would definitely not. I would have not wanted to do it again. And so I was like, when they didn't ask me, I'm like, oh yes, they didn't ask me. But then yes, I've been told the same thing by a few other people as well.
You, hey, the guy, I think is, I don't remember the name. Was it the third author? Was he the guy that narrated
David
it?
Sachs.
Yeah.
No, I believe they just hired a separate. They just hired someone who specialized in that to do it. Which, like I said, it was so hard. I really, honestly, that one I did my own book. They have like 3 days booked in the studio. And I got through the first day and I thought, holy shit, I'm not going to finish. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, there's no way I'm getting through this whole thing. And then, it was like 8 hours of just reading and do it again, do it again, do it again. You missed this word. You got that wrong. Do it again. I'm like, and then luckily day two, I found my groove, and day two I started crushing. And then it didn't even take me all of day three to finish, which was, yeah, it was good.
Well, yes, I listened to your book and you reading it, and like I said, because you got to really, it's got to resonate, it's got to click. It was a
Yeah.
little. I would read it if I were going to do it again. But
Mm-hmm.
a concept that comes up a lot within our company is being an introvert and extrovert, because
Yeah.
everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, and in reality, I'm a huge introvert. And I think, as your book talks about, there's always balance. Like when I'm inside the walls of a gym, I'm extremely extroverted, and then when I leave that,
Yeah.
like I'm home with my wife, my kids, I don't want to talk to anyone. How would you define those things, and how would you recommend
Oh.
someone determine where they are on that scale?
Oh, well, actually, that's a funny one because that's somewhere I don't consider myself. I don't consider myself to be an expert on that subject. But my wife, I know what my wife would say. She would say you're probably a little bit autistic, because I think I'm a little bit autistic, and one of the traits is that very narrow and defined interest. And so, if I'm talking about or doing something I enjoy, I love talking to people. But if I got to go make small talk, I dread it. I hate it. Right. So I just don't. I mean, I'm at the point in my life where I don't have to put myself in a lot of situations that I don't want to be in. And so, generally speaking, I try to hang out and spend time with people who enjoy similar things and we have shared interests and hobbies. And then that makes it really easy. But, I would say, I guess sometimes in business, you do have to get good at speaking, and pretty much any business there's at least some type of sales component to it, likely. And you have to say why. Wrestling academy, well, why should a parent get their kids started wrestling? What benefits is wrestling going to provide to them? And then what benefits is Askren Wrestling Academy going to provide to them? And I have to be able to convey those messages, otherwise our business is going to struggle.
Well, let's be frank. You're on this podcast because you have to be.
No, I could have absolutely said no. I checked you out. You seem like a nice, reasonable dude. I did say no to a few other podcasts this week. Looks like you had a good audience who's maybe somewhat like-minded to myself, is what I would say. A bunch of, hardworking type of people. So that's kind of why I said, it sounds like a good idea.
Well, I appreciate that. And I did hear you.
Yeah.
You were on another podcast. It just popped up yesterday, and I will say the audio was so bad I couldn't listen to it.
Who was it?
Let me look at. It's my most recent YouTube. I tried to.
Wrestling Mindset?
Yes.
Because I haven't done a bunch. Oh, wrestling. What? The audio was bad?
Let me
Damn,
make sure I'm giving you the
that
right
sucks.
information here. It was just.
I did a few with release this book, Wrestling Mindset, Wrestling Changed My Life.
No, Wrestling Changed My
Clash
Life.
of-
That kid's really good. I like that kid a
Ryan,
lot.
yeah, Ryan Warner. He does a really good job.
He did the podcast on Henry Cejudo.
Yes, yep,
It was really, really great. I give that guy. Sorry, it's not. I think it was that one, but it was anyway. You were saying yes and no on it early on in his podcast. How do you manage that as someone that probably gets asked to do a lot?
Oh, really? I usually honestly just say no if I don't if I don't want to do it. I don't think it was wrestling mindset then, because I remember we have great discussions. To my recollection.
Well, no. It was a great discussion, but you were talking about how you might struggle. You had overcommitted recently, and this summer you had done too many camps.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that was that podcast. I said the last summer, I just said yes to too many camps, and it was just, you know what? I need to have my whole calendar in front of me. So I made a note. Hey, Ben, you messed up. Don't mess up again. I think that's important to note in life, is that, you kind of just like constantly reevaluate. Is this something I want to do? Is this somewhere I want to spend my time? And, one of the things I did this summer was I didn't kind of look ahead and say, okay, like this event's great and this event's great. But then if I'm doing a whole bunch back to back to back, it's like, okay, well now I'm missing family time, which, kids are at school during this time of year, or I'm missing time at my academy where I need to be helping kids get ready for nationals or whatever it is. And so I think that was just, I didn't look ahead enough and just kind of pay attention and that's one of those things where I think what I said on the podcast was, I'm at a point in my life where I'm really lucky that I have a lot of really great opportunities to do kind of things. And so if I say I went to a camp, and I did a camp in Maine last weekend, I loved it. I love just being in the room, helping kids, because each one of those kids, they may get to see me one or two more times in their life, but probably not a lot. And so I get to try to make a difference in the way they think and the wrestling moves they do. And I love it. And it's like, so if you said, hey, Ben, do you think you would enjoy doing that every day? And I was like, yeah. Seems like, seems great. I got paid fairly. I think I would do it. But then it's like, but then you're not by your family. You're missing out on that. You're not coaching at your academy. You're missing out on that. And so it's like, I'm at the point where it's almost too much supply of good opportunities, which it's a great problem to have. And so I just need to make sure I'm looking ahead at my full calendar and saying, am I giving myself enough time at home? And am I at the academy enough, and all that type of stuff.
We'll have two follow-ups.
Does that make sense at all? Am I making any sense?
Absolute perfect sense. And one of the things we coach our clients is, saying yes to the wrong things is saying no to the right things.
Yes. Actually, that brings up a great chapter. You want to hear the chapter that brings up?
Yes, please.
Because it's chapter 6, focusing on the process and focusing on the outcome. And I bring this up a lot, and I brought this up with Joe DeCina, and we filmed some content together, and he said, I disagree. Focus on the process, which is, you probably should spend more time focusing on the process. But if you totally neglect the outcome, sometimes you forget what you want. Like you just doing the day to day, and you forget, oh, wait, but this isn't even actually what I'm doing. I should be directing more energy towards this. And I told you earlier, like, there's some projects that, Mac, my brother and I'll just say, like, we started doing wrestling tournaments a while back. And we just realized, like, that is not congruent with what Askren Wrestling Academy should be about. And we're spending a bunch of time and effort on it. And that's not the best use and time of effort. So we just stopped, And so it's like, sometimes in life you start things, and if you focus on only the process of how do I make for example, in that example, how do I make this tournament the best tournament it can be? Well, now I'm spending a whole bunch of time and effort on it, but that's not actually what our goal is, right? Our goal is to grow our wrestling academies and build great wrestlers. And yes, you can make money doing a tournament, but that's not what we want to do. So we stopped, So it's like focusing on the process and the outcome. I think it's important to do both. And so you kind of always kind of zoom out and look 40,000 feet. Is this what I want to be doing? Is this the best way to help me achieve my goals? And kind of constantly doing that.
That's a concept we teach our clients all the time. So in the CrossFit space, a lot of affiliates want to have these competitions.
Yeah.
And it's like a time suck. You might make some money, but per hour, it's not much. No different than a wrestling tournament, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it
yeah,
ultimately
sure.
distracts from the main thing, which is taking care of your members and your community. And
yes,
it's just like
Big
you
time.
said, a distraction. And I've heard you talk about that process and outcome time. I mean, as a 20-year jiu-jitsu veteran with a purple belt, I have to focus on the process and not the outcome there, because it's just like you drive yourself crazy, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of Joe, I don't know how often you still speak to him. I met Joe, it must have been 2010. It was like before Spartan blew up. I had a gym. My first CrossFit was in Albany, New York, upstate. I'm in Colorado now, but it was Albany, New York. And he was like in the Vermont area at the time.
Yep.
And he had maybe like 10 affiliate owners to this mansion. He had this massive house in Vermont. Took us to like a Bikram studio. I think it was his sister that like had a Bikram studio doing yoga.
Okay.
And he was trying to get buy-in from the CrossFit community. And we were so ignorant and dogmatic in CrossFit. We were like, no one's going to do your stupid obstacle courses, Joe. And then like he would drop into the box, and like 3 years later, we just saw Spartan explode. So it's really cool. I'd love to get him on. I got to reach out to him and chat with him. He used to drop into my
that's
gym.
obviously when we were doing that filming that one day, we were talking a lot about that. And he was saying, now I'm going to forget exactly what he said, but I think they do different types of races now.
Yeah, they have short, like medium, long.
Yes. And in the beginning, he said, I thought everyone was only going to want to do the, 100 miler or something crazy, right? I thought they were only going to want to do this really long one. And I had a bunch of other people telling me, no, people would definitely want to do some shorter ones, and you need to interweave that. And he said in the beginning, I was so stubborn, and I didn't want to do that at all. I only wanted to do the one that I wanted to do. And it took a lot of convincing, but once we tested the other ones, people loved it, and they really took off. And so, I don't remember which chapter we were talking about when we were having that discussion.
Yeah, no, because at the time he had this like 24-hour event in Vermont, and it was like,
I know what it was. It was using your chapter 10, using your head and using your instinct. And see, he said his instinct was telling him no one's going to want to do those. They only want to do the really hard one. It was 24 hours. That's what it was. The 24 hours. That's it. That's all they're going to do. And he said, well, I had a bunch of other people tell me, no, do the shorter ones. And he said, eventually I had to use my head and get over my instinct to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, he got over it because he's doing great now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
One of the studies in the book was about the chess masters. And
I love that one.
I was thinking about how you can relate that to CrossFit and fitness, right? And wrestling, it makes sense. Like you innovated,
makes sense,
you created the funky, methodology. We're always kind of working on puzzles, and you're seeing it with your wrestlers now. But when it comes to fitness, how would so for example, I dropped in at a gym yesterday. We did a workout called Jackie, which is 1,000-meter row, 50 thrusters with an empty bar, 30 pull-ups.
Yeah.
And at 46 years old, that was the fastest time. And the girl, was like, I was like, I'm not fitter. I just knew kind of where I needed to rest and where I needed to, transition and where I needed to slow down, which ultimately yield a faster time. I was wondering if that was a good kind of analogy that, the chess study was chess masters memorized more pieces on the board when it was an actual not chess board, but a chess match versus just randomized.
Randomized, yes. Yeah. So they essentially build structure in their mind that can let them essentially encapsulate a whole bunch of information in one bit of information, right? So they're not seeing this as 12 pieces. They're seeing this as one thing, So in wrestling, I think about it like, okay, if I see a single leg shelf, I think, oh, single leg shelf. I only need a half a second to get that, right? Whereas someone who doesn't know wrestling might think, well, if they have to replicate that, where's their head? Where's their arm? Where's their leg? Like they're thinking about all these different pieces. And I'm thinking, oh, I know what that is, How does that replicate? I don't know. I don't know if that does, not everything replicates in everything else.
For sure.
And so I don't know if it does in CrossFit. Obviously, to your point, someone who's in really insanely good shape, but does not have good technique will really struggle in a CrossFit competition because they're going to take way more effort to do things that, you can do easily. But as far as, understanding structures and how they go together, because there's not really, one of the things that is most egalitarian about the CrossFit space is there's not really a lot of shortcuts. In wrestling, it is and it isn't, right? Because there are definitely easier ways to do certain techniques. And, if you want to become better than all the other wrestlers, you're going to learn how to do the technique in the most efficient way. But, in CrossFit, there's not a lot of unique ways. If you're doing a thruster, you got to drop your ass down, you got to press the bar up, and you got to do it over and over and over again. And you may get, incrementally better, but you're not going to like transform a different way to do it, because then that would not be within the rules.
Yeah, no, that's certainly interesting. And one of the things we discuss in depth at the level 1 is technique and intensity and finding that balance, because you can't be all intensity, because if your technique sucks, you're wasting it. And if you're all technique, you're going to go a little too slow. So finding that balance there and when to move better. It sounds like you're training a little less now in your 40s, but something I struggle with at 46 is understanding, am I tired and need to go easy, or am I just being, for lack of better terms, a little bitch, right? So
yeah, of course.
How would you recommend to a CrossFitter to analyze?
Well, that's where I think you need the balance, and you need to focus on what is the actual outcome. What is the outcome you want? Because that's a big one. It's like, well, are you trying to win the freaking CrossFit Games at 46? Masters Division, obviously. No. And if you were, stop being a little bitch, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not, and you're just trying to live a happy life and be in shape, there's actually, I was talking to someone who's way smarter than me on this topic the other day. There's actually kind of a bunch of research about people going too hard as they get older, because their bodies can't recover quite as faster. And then if you just push too hard, it kind of leads to a lot of more negative outcomes. And so like, there's that fine balance of, again, are you trying to win the CrossFit Games at 46? And if you are, then stop being a little bitch. You got to freaking bring the heat. There's no other way around it. That's all. But if you're saying, hey, I'm trying to stay in shape, then, cause this is what I do. Cause I'm not trying to win anything now. I like to get in and mix it up once in a while, but I generally will kind of go hard, like twice a week, where I'm really kind of like trying to push myself. Maybe it's a Aerodyne workout, or maybe I'm wrestling hard with one of the younger athletes. I generally try to lift twice a week, and then I try to do a lighter workout twice a week, And so it's like, and I try to kind of put them in a cadence where I'm not going really hard back to back. And if I know, hey, Mitchell Wrestling wants to come in town and wrestle, then I'm probably going lighter the day before, And so I'm kind of like rotating through those things. So that way, I'm not really wearing my body out. And, so the guy who I was talking to is way smarter than me about this stuff, said, for sure, that's something, that you have to think about as you get older. So I would say focus, zoom out and focus on what is the outcome.
We have I train at Easton in Boulder. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And
wait, Boulder, is that? I think my buddy lives in Boulder. I just booked a trip to Denver because we have a wrestling tournament there in January, and I'm gonna go see a buddy. And to live in Boulder, what are some other towns up there?
Well, Denver's about 30 minutes. Boulder.
That one doesn't live in
Arvada.
Denver. I'm gonna text him right now. Anyway, keep going. I have ADHD.
Does he train jiu-jitsu?
No, he actually does CrossFit.
Oh, well, yeah. Let me know. But anyway, we have a former Greco Olympian, Reed Delman is his name. He's 52. And we were talking the other day. He said, as we age, we don't go light enough on our easy days, so we can't go hard enough on our hard days.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Yes, I agree.
I get asked all the time, what gym software should a gym owner use? And the short answer is, I don't care. What I care about is the companies like PushPress design software that helps gym owners run better businesses. So if you're working with a software company, you're not happy, and you don't know what to do with the information that software gives you every single day, check out PushPress. They've got built-in systems like the 180-day journey that we helped them build inside of PushPress Grow that'll help you interact with your clients at a better clip in order to improve your retention. So if that's something you're interested, reach out to those guys at PushPress and help you run a better box today.
All right, I know you have to get moving. I wanted to tell you one other thing I loved in the book, the ice cream analogy. I don't know if that was your analogy or someone else's about finding the
Remind me
weakness.
what I said or what it said.
It was essentially like you're licking an ice cream cone and you're always looking for the weakness in the cone so it doesn't
Yes.
dribble on you.
I believe that was David actually who had that one.
I loved it. I was like, that's a really great analogy that anyone would understand. You're just constantly looking for those weak points and working on them.
Yeah. Yeah. David, so David, he's a PhD in sports psychology, and he was so smart and so much fun to work with that, we spent a whole bunch of time kind of, bouncing ideas off each other and, putting this book together. And it was just really great to get his perspective. And then, the other thing that we were able to do is find a whole bunch of really good athletes to interview and, get their perspectives as well on the topics.
Yeah, you had some great sources. This was the book I've heard you talk for years. When you were in college, I don't remember the female's name, but you were working with a woman, your sports psychologist, maybe. This was the book you were talking about. What's up?
Her name is Renee Mapes.
But this was what you were working on that entire time, which ultimately.
Well, I would say that we were working on a sports psychology book, but it was way different than what this is. So there may be some resemblances or some things who are similar, but there's probably way more that's different than the same.
All right, last thing, I'd be remiss not to bring up Bitcoin while I've got an expert.
Oh, let's go.
So
I think we're getting killed today.
You freaked me out a little bit. So I've got mine on a ledger. It's in my closet, right? Okay. It's I should say it's hidden, right? But what if I die? Like I was thinking about that. Like somebody, I don't remember where I heard you, and I was like, my wife is.
Well, I said on the Clash of Combat, I said I don't think my wife would be able to get it, and that's on her because I have tried.
I sat down with her too.
Amy, let me sit down and let me explain this to you, so you know. And she never has time, so I might just go out into the ether. Who knows?
Well, what would your pitch be to everybody listening? Because I'm a huge proponent.
Oh, this is easy.
Can you give like an elevator pitch for those that are uneducated as to why Bitcoin is the future? Yeah,
well, I mean, the first thing I say with the U.S. dollar. Well, first I might start with what is money? Do you even understand what money is and what money is supposed to be? If you don't understand that, it is really hard to understand why Bitcoin. So I start with that, but then the simple one I say is do you really think the U.S. government's ever going to stop printing more dollars? Do you think they're ever going to spend responsibly? And nobody says yes. Not one person ever says, oh yeah, I think they're going to balance their budget next year and pay down their deficit. Like that has literally no one has ever said that to me. And so if you're under that mindset, then you're under the mindset that they're going to continue to print more, which means every dollar will be continually worth less, which means you need to go invest your money somewhere. And, the best hard money assets are gold. And if you understand gold is a great hard money asset, you'll understand that Bitcoin does everything that gold does, but better, right? So everything that gold is good at, Bitcoin is better at. Whether you're talking about divisibility, the ability to send it across borders for cheap fees, the ability to verify that it's actually there, like all these things that Bitcoin, that gold did really, really well for all of time, Bitcoin does better. And if you actually look now, gold is kind of killing it. And, I think it's one of those things where once people realize that Bitcoin is just a better gold, a lot of people who are buying and investing gold they're going to realize, oh, wait, I should just buy Bitcoin because Bitcoin is better at being gold than gold is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of it. If you realize the U.S. government isn't going to stop printing more money, you need to have an out somehow.
I don't remember who I heard say it, but it was like, what's that, Michael Saylor, that guy? It's like there's more risk in not having it than not having it.
I that's what I totally try to tell some, especially older family members, older people who are around me who have at least a little bit of money. It's like, I'm not telling you to go buy 50% of your net worth with Bitcoin, but I think you're an idiot if it's not 3 or 5. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're older and you're retiring, you got, so say $2 million, right? Go buy 3%. 3%, that's 1 Bitcoin. Like, and who knows if the dollar fails and Bitcoin explodes, you're set.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not? It's 3%. I'm not telling you 50%. I'm not telling you to be nuts like I am, right? But it's go put 3% of your net worth into Bitcoin, and have that, because to your point, there is more risk in not having it.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time, Ben. I know how busy you are. Thank you for saying yes. Extreme Balance.
Got it.
Funky. I haven't seen the journal. Is that available?
Yeah, so the journal right now it is just for wrestlers. It's all in journal. I did this with a friend. I think it would be applicable to. It is kind of based for wrestling, but when you look at like the page, it could be for any sport, CrossFit if you want. It's gratitude, actions you're taking today, reflections on positive and negative things, big vision reminder, and then just open space for journaling. So like absolutely could be used for CrossFit. So that's the all in wrestler's journal. Who knows? Maybe at some point we'll move it to other sports.
Hey, one wrestling question before you go.
Yeah, for it. You go for it.
I know you've had your beef with Sriracha. Do you think he's going to fight?
I have no beef. Listen, I have no beef with Sriracha, actually. I apparently said his name wrong. And I believe I made astute observations on things I thought about him. He chose to take offense to those, but I have nothing against him.
This is why I really enjoy. Like, I love your attitude. Like, even back in the day with the UFC, like busting Dana's balls, like it was clearly like you're a wrestler, and that's just your sense of humor, and anyone else is just not getting it. So I appreciate it. But 5-time, you think he's going to 5-time?
I think there's a very good chance, but I'm hoping he does not because he will be wrestling my
Parker, right?
One of our other athletes, Parker Keckeisen. So I think do not have final confirmation, but I do believe they are going to wrestle at the All-Star. So we'll get to see that before too long.
That's coming up at Penn State soon.
Is it mid to late November? I think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, again.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I look forward to watching you later with DC, and appreciate all you do. Thank you, Ben.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Jason. Have a great day.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.